Hello, friends. It is another Monday, and this is another episode of the on.net live show. I see lots of folks participating in chat already. I see our friend Frank tuning in from igloos in Canada. I see Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Poland, Nicaragua. This is awesome. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us today. I'm your host, Scott Addy, and I'm joined by co-hosts Myra Wenzel and David Pine.
Hello.
We have a very familiar guest joining us today on the show, our friend Swamy. Swamy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, this is Swamy. Swamy the Learner. No one gave me this title. I suffixed it myself. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn new technologies and share whatever I learn. That's me. Back to you, Scott.
All right. So my understanding is you aspire to talk about Aspire today. Is that correct?
Yes, I do aspire to speak on Aspire, and I really excited to see what Microsoft has created with this Aspire.
Let's get into it. I'd love to hear what you want to share with us today.
Oh, yes.
Even John is on the comments today.
By the way, John is one of my aspiration. I mean, John, Scott Hanselman, John Galway, and Christopher. They are. I'm the big fan of them since past 11 years. I wrote an email to Scott Hanselman, John, specifying that they are my inspiration. John, do you remember the email which I wrote it last year in 2024? You replied back to my email, swamy.pkv. Hotmail. That's my email. You replied back to my email. They are my inspiration. I started my journey back in 2013, seeing the virtual academy from Microsoft. Yeah, so John replied. So since 2013 December, they are my inspiration. Even today, they are my inspiration.
That's awesome.
That's all. And I do want to thank Sean for this comment, saying I love that Microsoft streams so frequently to the community. That's our goal. So keep posting shows to come here. Like I put a call for content in a lot of our platforms, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, etc. And so, yes, thank you for the community for coming here and share all your knowledge with us. And with that, I think we should jump into the topic. I know you have a packed agenda, Swamy.
Oh yes, is my screen in share?
It was. We stopped sharing it because it was Inception. You were sharing the screen. So if you switch over.
Okay. I'm really sorry. Okay.
Oh no worries, no worries.
Okay. So I have given the URLs, guys. We can focus purely on the session. Please fasten your seatbelt. I bought 3 episodes content in 1 episode. So I've given these links to the team, the producers. They will share with you people. This is my GitHub, and this is my demo script for today. I will check in the latest demo script, and the entire code is here. And some of the code has been stolen from Microsoft Repo, and I created my own, so that I can tell that okay, this is my own code.
Well, to be fair, that's the point, right? We're supposed to, provide code that you, the community, leverage and expand upon and make it your own.
Seriously, those things were so beautifully crafted. It was like a moment of tears of joy. Okay, I have to cover a lot of content. Please fasten your seatbelt. 3 episodes content is coming in 1 episode. So let's quickly, I've given much of the URLs, so we can stick to those URLs. Here we can see what is new in .NET 9 and what is new in .NET 9.1. So those are the two things which we'll be exploring today. So I'll click on this link also, so that we'll be staying in the same place. What is .NET 9 and .NET 9.1. If you're trying to have this .NET 9 creating the Azure functions, which we'll be covering today. So sometimes what happens is you might not see the .NET 9 isolated. So all we need to go and just do a simple tools, options, project and solutions, Azure functions, click on an update. So thanks to the author, I myself was facing this problem this evening. So this was the last minute wildcard entry, the Azure. Okay, that being said, let's start with this, what's new in Aspire. And first point is there are a couple of images which I took it from today's .NET Conf. From there I took this. It's a very good session which was done, and they clearly gave explained like what is Aspire and where does it fit. In a simple images, it was explained like streamlining the inner loop, like a developer dashboard, integrations, and generating the manifest and do the deployment. We did a couple of episodes last year where we did the deployment, but this time it is purely focused on latest things. Okay, so from the upgrading to 9, it might be a little bit tricky to use this. This upgrade assistance has been given. But going to 9.1 is pretty simple. We'll go step by step. It is just adding this .NET 9.1 SDK. And if you see that I'm just using something else, is having these two things, build props and packages. I just wanted to speak about it for 1 minute real quick. Because adding these packages, props at the directory level, we don't need to have this same thing at multiple places. If you see this Sonar Analyzer C#, if you see that, I am using that at different places. I don't need to maintain its version. All I can do is I can go ahead and start. Using it at different places. And another thing is,
I'm going to interject here real quick. So this feature that he's talking about is referred to as central package management, and it's a new addition. So not really new, it's actually been around for a little while, but it's starting to see a lot more traction. And there's been an upgrade assistant tooling enhancement recently that's allowed you to opt into it. There wasn't much tooling support before that, but what it lets you do is centralize the management of all your packages into this directory packages file. And then you can omit, in fact, you have to omit the version from your CS projects where you're referring to packages. So it says package reference. You do not specify the version there because it's centrally managed.
Right. And here, another thing is the build props. And you can see the advantage of this build props is it is .NET 9. Tomorrow, I want to move to .NET 10. All I need to do is update to .NET 10. All the projects which are here, if we go and see that, well, let's go into this. We don't see this element like .NET 9 enable implicit usings, enable nullable. You're not seeing here, or we are not seeing. I just forgot to remove that, and we are not seeing here in this project. And weather API, you don't see the entire element itself. And here in the web app demo, you don't see the entire element. So the advantage is, if I want to move it to level 10, it is very easy. All I need to do this, and rest of the things are pretty common. So I was doing last moment changes, so apologies for that. Another thing is upgrading. This is on .NET 9.1 version. So I just thought of to speak about this first point. So let me come back here, and this is about the .NET Aspire upgrade. Now, from the tooling improvement perspective, I have both Docker, we'll see that in demo, as well as the Podman. So I can switch. I mean, when I'm using this Aspire, So it supports two flavors of this containerization. I can use Aspire with Docker here, and Aspire with Podman. You can see that. So when we are using multiple things, all we need to do is go and do one small setup in Podman, except that it works smooth because I do have both the containerization option, Docker, as well as Podman on my local box. That's the only reason. We'll see that. Okay, now let's see a quick demo how the tooling has improved from the VS Code perspective. So there are multiple things I just wanted to show you real quick. So let me open the VS Code here. So once we open the VS Code, suppose if you want to create a new project, okay? If you want to create a new project, let me go to this this one over here. We can go and click on .NET Aspire. Okay, we can create. I mean, this is not the right thing. We have to go and start. Just a moment. I have captured that image. So we need to come in here, and there will be a button called Create New Project. Okay, so .NET create new project. Okay, so once we create this new project here, .NET create new project, then it asks us what type of project we are trying to create it, and then we can go ahead and choose this option, like .NET New Aspire and all these things. It will be available. That is one way to create it. And the other way is, if you already have a API or Blazor application, any of the .NET flavored application, you can see this. It is taking little time, but when we want to create an Aspire one, it allows us. It has got the same set of option. You want to create an Aspire host or an empty project or a starter application. The same flavor we will be able to see when we are using the Visual Studio 2022. This is creating everything from scratch. Suppose if we have an existing application here, existing project here, all we can do is, again, we can go and type Aspire, and it does an orchestration. That means it's going to add the app host as well as the service defaults. So that's from the tooling perspective, that is one thing. And another thing I just wanted to show you is, when we want to execute it, we do have multiple options here. So all I can go is go to the app host and select the program.cs and right mouse click and run the project associated with this. And that is going to execute this Aspire solution. And this has got a combination of Web API, Minimal API, Blazor application, Blazor server application, and Azure functions, Angular application, React, Vue.js, and SQL Server, and Redis cache. I'm tired talking about these. And imagine what as Microsoft created for us. See this, when we compare that we used to do with a lot of Docker files and running multiple instances of Visual Studio Code, and if at all it is there in the same solution, executed one with debugger, one without debugger, multiple times execution, or putting everything into an orchestration, execute it, and to test itself, we might go nuts or mad. What is that we are testing it? But now see this, how simple. I was able to speak about 8 different things and see how simple everything got wrapped up. And not only with the same flavor, like not only the .NET, we are having React, we are having Angular, we are having Vue.js, and for the Python inference cluster, which we can see in eShop support, That's another wonderful thing. They mixed so many things in one place. So all we can do is we can wait over here and see it would have started the application.
So Swamy, real quick, while this is starting up,
it will see this. Now let's give a quick look at it and come back. Yeah.
I was going to say it might be a good idea if we take a like zoom out real quick and try to explain kind of holistically the problem that .NET Aspire is trying to solve, because I think we're moving quick here. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff to show. So it might be confusing to some of our viewers, why we have an app that's got React, Angular, and Vue, why we have weather APIs, why we have this cache, why we have all this, and we've got this dashboard now on screen. So what's kind of the purpose of all these different moving parts that we're trying to demonstrate?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
sure, definitely. I'm losing you. Is it because of my network? I'm not sure.
It might be.
It might be.
Yeah, we had some viewers saying that you were a little choppy with your audio before.
So David,
okay.
you write the docs for.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, so
no, I was
gonna
say, David, you write the docs for .NET Aspire, so I consider you an expert on that topic. So do you want to just give an overview?
Let me take this question. I'll do my best to answer.
I don't think he's hearing us.
Are you hearing us, Swamy?
Oh yeah, yes. I'm hearing us.
Okay. So I was just going to add a bit of context real quick, if I may. .NET Aspire is a set of tooling around trying to improve like the inner loop of your development experience. So you can run like containerized apps that require, talking to other containerized apps, like, thinking microservices and things like that, or distributed cloud native apps, to use some more buzzwords, right? All locally on your machine. So the idea is that it's a local orchestrator. So it's not intended really for production. We do have a deployment story, but for local development to increase your inner loop, and we have a developer dashboard, and we integrate with many different things. So the idea is really to help speed up your inner loop and improve your development experience for local development. So in some of the demos that we have built out, like the one that you were showing before, like the Angular and Vue and React, it's probably not realistic that you're going to have an application that has 3 front ends that are written the same way. The idea was to just show that you can do any of those flavors that you want, and we can orchestrate those and communicate and kind of inject configuration, and we can get into more of that. But I just wanted to help kind of provide a little bit of context about the goal behind what Aspire's aspiring to do. Strike 1 for me. Waiting for John to call me out. All right, back to you, Swamy.
Thanks. Thank you. So that was from the tooling experience perspective. And another quick thing I just wanted to show you is, apart from executing it, we do have the Solution Explorer. This is almost similar to the Visual Studio. And this is with the help of this C# dev kit over here. This guy makes this possible. We will be able to execute it. And also, very importantly, if you see that when you rightmost click on this, you see the menu option. The context menu is very particularly to this. And at the same time, when we go here and when we click on this, you see the context menu is different. Now, this is almost pretty much similar to the Explorer over here. Okay, that's one piece of the puzzle, like from the tooling enhancement perspective. Now, improved onboarding experience. Now we can come back to the repository over here, and in this repository, all we can do is click on this, and you see this. I enabled code spaces a few hours ago. All we can do is click on that and open in browser or open in Visual Studio. And open in browser, it might take some time, a little time. But what we can do is we can open the same in Visual Studio Code also. From there, you have the menu option. If you come in here and click on that open in Visual Studio, it does open it in our local box. One thing you can see that it is hooking up from our local Visual Studio. It connects to the GitHub code spaces, and then it gives us the control. It will take a little bit of time, but you see this, the entire code is coming in. Whatever is in my local, it's over here. And one or two differences we will be able to see is, once we come to our local code, you will see that is having the PS, the PowerShell. And when I type host name, it gives my box name. And when we go to the GitHub code spaces, you see that by default, it comes to the bash. Okay. When I type host name over here, it gives us the code spaces, the same number, which we can correlate here, the same number. I mean, that's what it has created. And another important thing is, now this is similar to an individual box. I'm calling it as an individual box because this is entirely separate, and whatever I do is applicable to that code spaces which has been provisioned in the GitHub. So whether I install any of those NuGet packages or whether I install any of those extension, that's not going to affect my local instance of VS Code. All these things is going to affect the Visual Studio. This one, the code space in GitHub. So that's another good feature, that we don't need to spend much of the time, and we'll be able to provision pretty easily. Now that's the after upgrade. The second point is this point. I mean, there are other things which I'm just ignoring, because two things is, whether it is the dev containers or GitHub code spaces, this is very, very good and important feature, because we are there in industry since 2 decades and above. We know the pain of multiple people writing the documentation to set up the application itself, even if it is 2-tier or even single MVC application with Angular embedded in this. It takes 1 week time for us to go and set up the box and execute it. Just for that, it takes 1 week. That too, even after having fully documented in Confluence or Wiki or whatever it is. Now, this dev containers or code spaces made that 1 week into 1 minute. All we need to do is create it. We write everything and put it in the dev container, that JSON configuration, what tools we needed, what software we need to install, everything, package it with the Docker container, or the way different ways are there. So once we do it, all rest of the team members need to do is download that, start the dev containers, or directly start the GitHub code spaces. So the time which other members we are coming into the team, they need to spend only a minute or less. That depends on the speed. How do you download the code and click on the dev containers? Boom, that's it. You're up and running. No need to go through the painful process for 1 week waiting for how to set up that. Where is the Node.js? Nothing. Everything is packaged. So this is another wonderful feature. I love that. So let me come back to the improved experiences. We have seen that's executing. And coming back to the UX enhancements, the first thing is the resource lifecycle management. So I will switch back to this one. And okay, before going any further, I just wanted to show a few other important points. So when we go and see this here, none of the time it tells that HTTPS or HTTP, because this is my weakness. I always go into this properties and give the solution name as the HTTPS. And when you configure or when you override, you need to ensure that you need to go and override all these things. If not, what happens is, I'll just show you a real quick demo. If I come in, I made this as an HTTPS. That means alphabetically that is at the top. Now, when I go to some other project where if I did not override that, what happens is the HTTP profile will be at the top and whatever we modified will be at the bottom. So assume that this is how it will be by default. So now if I execute this, what happens is rest of all the projects will get executed in HTTPS, except this one which I forgot to modify, because when you execute .NET run, so it goes and picks up the first profile in the launch settings.json. So if you don't reset it properly according to the changes, it goes and picks up the HTTP profile, and that's what it gets flushed out onto the dashboard. And we have to scratch our heads for quite a few minutes or hours. Luckily, I don't have any hairs. I can scratch any number of minutes. But I really faced an entire day when I was creating, after .NET 9 got released, I was creating an Aspire project with .NET 8 framework, but Aspire 9. So then I was thinking that it's because of this combination, it has spoiled the dashboard. That's what I was calling out. Hey, something is broken because of this
network right now.
combination of on-setting.json. But hello?
I think it's when you spin up Aspire, you're spinning up multiple containers, and that's probably a little bit of a drain on your.
You can see that difference when we have overridden those kind of things. We'll see that it will. The other things you can see that the web is on HTTPS, but the API is on HTTP. Setting. So that was my issue. That was the reason this is not getting properly shown. So I will revert back the code. That is one thing. And another important thing is inside while we are in this solution itself, in the launch setting.json, all we need to have the manifest which shows that what ports has been enabled, whether we are enabling the external ports or those things. So there is a small command. We can create this inside the launch profile so that anytime we want to generate the manifest file, all we can do is select that and just execute it. It takes a minute or two, and real quick it generates the entire manifest and it stops there. And then you can come back to this one, and here you can go and see that it specifies all these things. Like we have a Redis cache container and the password it is, and we have the SQL, we have the server, and where it is mounting the volumes, and what is the bindings, and what is this weather API, and what is the web application, the Blazor application, the Azure function, and its storage. I think I did some mistake just 20 minutes ago. And the Angular application, the React application, and how does the API getting injected into that, everything it generates. So that's the tip I just wanted to give before we moving further into the lifecycle management. So here when we speak about the
let me ask you a question. Since
yes, please.
I'm new to Aspire, so I am looking at this from a newbie perspective. So this manifest is it going through your entire solution and trying to find all the pieces and stacks that you're using and trying to combine? What is it doing there?
So it is this guy inside the app host, and app host is the king. So he decides who whom the solution is going to be. He's the orchestrator. He decides like who else has to be provisioned, and he's the guy who ties or marries couple of components. Like if you see that we are creating the Redis cache and we are adding a parameter and we are creating a SQL server and we are adding a database and we are saying that, hey, this is a weather API, the project is here, and this is a metadata. It doesn't have anything more than the path of the project, and it's auto-generated one. It is creating and says that, okay, you can get the reference of this SQL database. That means inside Weather API, we'll be able to use the database which got provisioned in the line number 11. And all the things whichever is happening here in this single file, that is what we are going to see here. We are seeing the container over here. The next thing what we are seeing is the after Redis cache, there's a password. You see this password over here, and then the SQL server is here. And
So it's
then
like an app settings, but for Aspire. Like what Aspire sees, is that kind of like a good
yes,
comparison?
it gives us the entire thing. What is that we are orchestrating inside this one? One of the thing, it's a very good point. You can see this. Let's speak about this weather API. Let's take 30 seconds time and see that when we go to that weather API, and here you see that bindings, we have an HTTP bindings and we have an HTTPS binding, but we don't have anything called external true. That means here in local, we are able to go and get into the weather API and see that what weather API is spitting out. But when we deploy it to Azure, we will not be able to get into that API because it doesn't enable the external HTTP endpoint. And because we might have some permission, we will go and do it, or we can have the Aspire dashboard as an individual standalone component, and we'll be able to see that. So if I go and enable this piece here, now we will see how it is getting changed. Okay, now we saw that we just added this, and we remember the line for the web, line number 66. It starts at 66, and particularly it is 7980, 77 to 89. So let me go and regenerate the manifest, and whatever the changes which we did it in the orchestrator, now that will get impacted in this manifest file. So when it generates a manifest file, it goes, it generates the entire thing solution also. But key thing what I observed is whatever here you see this within that web API. So he's the guy who's the king of kingdom.
Right. Yeah. So one way to think about it is the app host itself is like the orchestrator, and that's the local development experience. So there's two primary modes. There's run mode, which is your standard local development. You're just F5ing and experiencing all these different executables and containers spinning up and communicating with each other seamlessly. The other mode is publish mode, and that actually results in a manifest JSON file that Swamy just showed. So it takes the program CS of your app host. And one way to think about the app host is actually Frank put it here in chat. If you're familiar with Docker Compose, that lets you kind of specify your containers and all the relationships between them. The app host is very similar to that, but instead of YAML, you have C#. So you actually get to express it using Fluent API and this builder pattern that you're accustomed to. And like I said, the two different modes kind of work that way. One run locally, and the other one for publishing, which results in a manifest JSON file.
Okay, appreciate the context. I think that was super clarifying. I hope the viewers also think so. I know we have questions, but I don't know, do we want to pull them out now or?
Yeah, let's do it. We have a couple here. Let's start back at the beginning. One of the first ones that came through was from Pulses Digital on YouTube. They said, can you view visual telemetry in the Aspire dashboard?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Do you have a dashboard running already, or you're going to spin one up?
I do have these things handy. So I can quickly go and show it here while this is coming out. So that's the, yeah, this is the one, telemetry. Let it come.
Yeah, but there's
Just give it a
console
minute.
logs for all the different resources. There's
It will-
metrics. There's tracing. So you get the whole purview of all the different resources and the relationships
There is
between.
tons and tons of things, and the good.
I think we lost audio from
I think
Swamy.
it's like just when it's
Let
like
me create the duplicate of this.
it's like when it starts running, then it's like
Yeah,
pauses
because
his
so when you
stream.
F5, what's that? What that's actually doing, so people know, is it's spinning up a SQL Server container on your machine.
So we can we can come to this console.
And StreamYard hogs a lot of your machine resources too. So it's
It
like
does. All right, Swamy, maybe stop running. Oh no, we lost him
we
altogether.
lost him.
Okay, let's just get through some of these questions real quick while he rejoins. The next question was, does dotnetaspire support Playwright for writing integration tests? That's a very good question. It does, but not as like a first-class citizen, so to speak. Like you can do it. It's a little bit of work, but what you would be testing, really, it could be like the dashboard, but you can do other aspects of it as well. So there's some opportunities right now that the team is looking at for improving that and potentially integrating more firsthand with Playwright, but that's later down the road. But it can be done. The other question here is Aspire wire up all the related services in the app host. Can you use the relative URL to reference of the project and the app settings instead of hard coding as localhost? So this just might be like a misconception about how the app host does injection. It actually, like configuration injection, it uses service discovery locally, so you can use named instances. So for example, inside your app host program CS file, imagine you have a web API that you call API. That's like the name of that resource. And if there's a dependency in a web app that depends on it, it says like with reference to that API, and there's a client inside that web app, it can have a named HTTP instance that points to API, and it knows how to resolve it because of service discovery. So you don't have to hard code localhost. So I think Swamy's back.
Yeah, that is the reason the distributed app has taken these things and provisioning it, because tomorrow you change either the endpoint instead of calling localhost here, because we are using it here, it is localhost. What if you deploy to dev environment? Now it will have a different endpoints. So you don't need to go and change. It is not that we are hard coding it. If you see this Aspire manifest, and you clearly see that it is generating based on the service binding HTTP and the target port. So everything is getting generated automatically. At this point of time, we are seeing localhost because we are executing it in our local. Once you deploy it to the environment, maybe the dev environment, test or stage or prod or UAT, the URL will automatically change, and we don't need to do any housekeeping work. David, am I right, David? From the service discovery perspective and from the values perspective, how it dynamically generates?
Correct. Yep.
Right. So that's about the lifecycle management. If you see from the lifecycle management perspective, I just wanted to show some of those things. Like you can see this I mean, this I'm showing something else. Like you see everything, whatever it gets displayed on the console, you will be able to see, probe into each and individual service, everything, whatever it's getting flushed out on their console, you will be able to see that. And from the lifecycle management perspective, for some reason, I just want to stop or start any of those service. Like I just want to stop this Angular application. So we can come back over here and look at the Angular. So at this point of time, that has been stopped. Now I can come back and click on start. Now that is starting, and go back to the console, and you see that it is starting the script, and this is starting. So now we have this flexibility of options. And another very important point is, now when you see this is a console logs, this is lifecycle management. Now another key thing is view details. Now when you click on this view details, you see that it has given all these things. And here at the bottom, the environment variables, if you see that, these are getting injected or getting translated based on the service discovery. All it says is services underscore weather API underscore HTTP and instance 0 and HTTPS instance 0. Because we are executing in local, it is localhost. If it is a dev environment, it will have a very big FQDN. It will not be the localhost. It's taken care by the Aspire. So that's one important thing I just wanted to highlight here. Okay, so the next thing is the sensitive and other volumes are there that we will discuss in a minute. And here the resource relationship. The resource relationship is here. If you see that in the app host, we said that here, if you see that in the app host, we told there's a password that will be secret. And then we said that, hey, create a SQL server and take this password as your dependency. And then to the SQL server, we will add the SQL database. SQL database. 20 minutes. My son, it's like an interrupt 21H. I can't stop him. So that's a SQL server to which we have added the SQL database. So now that dependency also it is clearly showing, and you can see this. There is a pin. The container, the pin is the container instance will come back here. The dependency graph it is showing. While we are here, another thing is with lifetime. So what is this? The lifetime is. I'll stop this and I'll delete this line and come back to this Docker container. Come back to this Docker container and let me go ahead and kill this or stop this for the time being. And okay, that has been stopped. Now what we will do is we'll come back and we'll execute it. Now we don't have the lifetime things which we are not giving. I think that's the future topic, but I think we have 17 minutes. So I'm just mix and matching as and when we are progressing to this this one. So I'm just keeping a watch what all the things which we are discussing, the relationship which we spoke, the localization we'll speak about that. And first we will see the Docker container, how it is behaving. Now see this, it is the SQL is not yet started. And you can see the impact of that is there is a dependency. Now, and we have the dependency of SQL Server on the web API. And the Blazor app will not start until this web API starts. And Angular, React, and Vue.js, they will not start until this guy starts. Now, where are we marrying these things? We are saying that, hey, here is that the weather API, you should not start until the SQL database has been started. So SQL database is not started. So that is the reason the weather API is waiting on that guy. And here in the weather API, we said that had the health check. And when web application comes up, we are saying that, hey, you should not start until this weather API should start. So again, here we added the same dependency, said that until you have this dependency, the API, you guys should not start. So that's the thing is it's taking little bit of time to start this particular container. It has started. Now you see this slowly. It will start. Sometimes I have to manually do this if it is not starting. I do it. I don't know whether I should do it or not, but that's what I used to do. Or else we can go back to this code where we had that persistence lifetime, and let me do an undo. Where did I do? Here. Now we said that container lifetime is persistent. That means we are saying that even after, while I'm debugging this, even after I stop the execution of the solution, you dismantle rest of the things, like if it is provisioning the Angular or Web API or anything it is provisioning in this Docker container, we are saying that delete everything, but please leave this aside. So that means here in this cache, we didn't add any lifetime, but for this SQL Server, we are saying that add the lifetime. So we'll see the difference is once it comes into life, even if we go and stop the execution of this, we'll see this difference here. Let's wait. It's one of the wonderful thing I love to speak about is even this Azurite, the emulator, it's having a container. So the proof is we can come in here and let me do refresh on this one, and you see that with the same name, the storage account, it has been created. I'm jumping the lines, but I just wanted to show how beautifully things has been developed. I can't stop my happiness. So see that everything. I mean, see, this is coming from the content. Yes. So I can't stop my enthusiasm. Now you see this. Now the SQL Server has started. Now see this. Now API is starting, and then the moment API starts, all these guys, those things will get started. Because see this. That's one important thing. Now here, if you see that the key thing is we have an storage emulator. I'm calling it as an emulator, lack of better word, and the Redis cache and the SQL Server. So what we will go, as I was mentioning, the SQL database was the dependency for API to start, and Blazor was waiting on the API, and all these three Angular were waiting on this one. So when I can come back to this one, I just wanted to quickly show a few other things. This is part of the .NET 9. Now the Open API is built into the framework. Now we don't need external packages to have the Swagger. Have the Open API specification. On top of that Open API, what we can do is we can add either the scalar or the Swagger. So on top of that, I just used the Swagger. So inside the Swagger, we need to give the specification of this. This is the Open API specification. We should give that, and then we can go and test this. So that's about one thing. And again, we'll close it and start, and time and again we'll go and discuss about all the points. Now we will focus on how it is dismantling rest of the things. Now that we stopped it, see that it dismantled the Redis cache, it dismantled the storage Azurite emulator, but it didn't touch, because we clearly mentioned that don't touch it. The lifetime is it should persist. That's the second thing. And we saw the storage emulator in Storage Explorer. Now this localization is, suppose someone who is good in their own local language, and they're feeling comfortable in their own language. So what options do they have when they are dealing with coding? Anyways, they don't have any option. Dashboard, I want to see in some other language. Suppose I want to see watch in Spanish or any other language. So and here the themes also, we can go ahead and change the themes, and on top of that the language we can go and make it Espanol, and you can see that you will see that this gets converted, and all these things are now in Spanish. You can see this, all the metrics, and I don't know what this is console, this is resources, this structured logs, this is I don't know, let me convert that into English. Wait.
That one Frank
Okay,
can
now
help.
that is in French. I know. Oh, bonjour, that's the only thing I can pronounce, and a couple of other
Bonjour, ça va?
small words and sentences I can pronounce. Sava. Yeah. Pushpa, when stop. So I watch French movies. So that's about the customization. So let's see if at all something else is there. Okay, resource management, which we did an extensive or a little bit of deep dive. We looked at this one, and one of the good thing is custom resource commands. That's the wonderful thing. I just wanted to show you from the eShop one. So if you go to the eShop one of the thing is we can define our own custom commands, not only depend on which was shown in the demo in .NET Conf demo. That's very wonderful. Options, like if you come in here, we see that view details, console log, structure, traces, metrics. Here restart is there, and he has given a very good explanation where do you need it. So for this database, let's assume that this is the local environment and local development. We can create, add records, or execute all our test scenarios, and after that we want to reset the database. Then we can write our own custom command and hook it up. That is there. I think reset DB or something. It is there. That's for sure. It is there in that. That's the minimal API. Is there. I'm unable to look at it, but please go and catalog. I think so. Or 1 second, I'll see if I'm able to remember that. I think it is this one only in this. Sorry, in this catalog, I assume, if I'm not wrong, somewhere they hooked up the minimal API to do the reset of this. If we execute it, we will be able to see that. Under pressure, I'm not able to recollect what it is, but that's a very good thing. Please, we need to learn that how to do the custom commands, and that's very easy. All we have to write is and then add with the custom command. That's there. Let me see if I am able to pull that documentation somewhere here. I'll see, but we will search. Let it come. Let's go with the next step, and we do have 6+ minutes. And working with SQL Server.
He's muted. Swamy. Oh.
Yeah, it says their mic is no longer connected. Swamis, if you can hear us, you're muted. I did just share a link here to the Aspire overview, as there is a lot of Swamy is famous for providing a lot of information. So if you're viewing this and you're kind of trying to understand, like, what is Aspire still and how can I use it? How does it apply to my day job or my hobbies that I'm interested in, or how can I start, using it? By all means, check out those links. And I also did share the links to Swamy's demos here. But there is a lot of different things that you can do with it, and we're excited to continue to answer questions here. I don't know if there's anything else.
This might be a good time to take a question that I flagged here in the chat. Let me put this up on the screen. Our friend Pulses Digital, again, thank you for another question here. How does mobile app development relate to .NET Aspire? Would it help someone in any way who is developing a mobile app in .NET?
Yeah, I can say that for .NET MAUI, I think there's limited support. I think they're going to be improving that story moving on. But that's a really good question. It depends on the type of mobile development. Obviously, with .NET, that's going to be something that's prioritized sooner rather than later. But when it comes to native stuff, probably not super helpful unless they're, the community toolkit kind of latches onto that, which is something that we haven't talked about. So the .NET Aspire team, while they do have tons of integrations that they support kind of like firsthand, there is a lot of additional things that the community has been focusing on and building out. So if you have ideas there, I know that Aaron Powell actually runs the community toolkit, and they'd love to see additional contributions and ideas, and I will paste that repository here in chat and show that on screen. So that is github.com/community toolkit/Aspire. And they have a ton of things already. They've got integrations with Go, with Java, Bun, Dapper, Dino, additional things for like ngrok, MongoDB, MailPit. It goes on and on and on. SQLite, Python, Melisearch, Mass Transit, Olama. You've probably seen a lot of that with the excitement around AI. So one great example of Aspire, a huge win in my opinion, is being able to pull in an Olama large language model locally and start actually doing AI development in your .NET APIs or web interfaces, and not having to rely on spinning meters, so to speak, and buying like a subscription into like the OpenAI and you can just test all this stuff locally and then kind of switch over to OpenAI support or Azure OpenAI.
Mhm.
Swamy, are you with us now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had lost you for a little bit, so we don't know at what point.
Is my voice audible?
It's there now. We lost the camera a while ago.
Okay.
We lost audio then thereafter, and now we're.
I just thought that because of my video, I'm.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, not a problem.
Yeah, I think like we're coming to like the top of the hour.
Yeah. So I just thought
And so
the eShop one.
I think Frank had one thing that I think it would be good to wrap the show is like why Aspire is useful. So I don't know if you, Swamy, or David want to take that over, and then we can wrap that up.
Go ahead, Swamy. So the question here from Frank.
Oh yeah, I just thought of to showcase the eShop support, where it uses the Olama and Azure OpenAI and other things. For some reason, it's not executing. I have showcased it in other demo, but
Oh no, yeah, no worries, Swami.
this is one of
Not.
the other
We're not.
the Python interface and Olama and a lot of other things are getting used in this one. This is one of the other wonderful repo from which we can learn. I love the concept of this data ingester and how it is hitting the API and all the product information and the PDFs and everything is getting generated from the OpenAI. Seriously, this is a wealth of knowledge where we'll be able to go. And another thing I really liked is this staff web UI. So inside this, one of the thing what happens is assume that I'm coming in the second shift and the first shift guy has spoken with the customer. The customer is unhappy and they discussed and his shift is over. He left. And once I come and join and that case is assigned to me. Now I don't know what happened in the previous thing. So there is a nice right side, you will have a chatbot kind of thing and click on a button. It clearly explains that what is the case, what was discussed previously. It beautifully describes everything. And on top of that, there's another button. We can say that, what should I reply to this customer? It goes and gets into the details of all the data and it gives us an answer. Like, this is what I can reply. I can click on reply. It replies that. And I can go and search the entire 200, 300 PDF files, whatever it generates. Say that, what does the manual say on this particular case? Customer says that I'm not able to hear, the phone is problematic or something is gone wrong. But we can specify on that particular case, what does the documentation says? It uses so many things. This is also definitely, you need to keep it on top of your list to go and watch this.
All right. I hate to interject here, but we are at time for today. So unfortunately, that's all we can allocate to talking about Aspire. Do go out and check out the official documentation that David works on continuously out at learn.microsoft.com. Shout out to David for all the great work there. I don't know if you get enough credit, but thank you, David. Also, thank you to our audience for tuning in to on.net Live today and for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. We do appreciate it. As a reminder, you can check out other .NET Live TV streams. These are all recorded and they're available out at dot.net/live. Please do join us next week. We'll be joined by guest Joost van Schaik, who will join the show and we'll talk about building 3D apps with .NET for headsets like Apple Vision Pro and Meta Quest. See you then. Bye.
Bye, friends.
Wow.